Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are strapping ourselves into the life support suit of maybe the greatest antagonist in cinematic history, Darth Vader.
Definitely one of the greats.
But just calling him a villain really misses the whole picture, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Our mission today really is to go way beyond just the black cape and that, intimidating breathing sound. We need to understand the duality of this character, the complex, sort of fractured way he was created, his design, and the incredible drama that happened behind the scenes.
Yeah, and the huge cultural legacy he left. It's enormous.
Colossal.
When you talk about the central figure of the Star Wars franchise, you're really talking about two identities, aren't you? Wrapped up in one deeply tragic arc.
It's the ultimate mythological fall, really.
Yeah.
The duality is basically the engine driving the entire saga. On one side, you've got Anakin Skywalker,
Right?
the gifted but profoundly troubled human slave from Tatooine, liberated by the Jedi Order, becomes this morally conflicted Jedi Knight apprentice to Obi-Wan Kenobi.
And then, the transformation into the icon. Darth Vader, the terrifying cyborg Sith Lord.
Emperor Palpatine's loyal servant, Darth Sidious, who ruthlessly hunts down the surviving Jedi, tries to crush the Rebel Alliance. He's the fist of the Empire.
And we can't forget, it's always personal. The stakes aren't just galactic war, it's about family.
Always. He's Padme Amidala's husband, he's Luke Skywalker's father, and Leia Organa's his twin sister.
And ultimately the grandfather of Ben Solo,
Yeah.
Kylo Ren, who tragically kind of follows in his dark footsteps.
Exactly. The whole character journey is defined by that shift, that transition from the Jedi Order, the Galactic Republic, these idealistic forces, to the authoritarian power of the Sith Order and the Galactic Empire. It's a complete ideological and existential flip.
The man is tragic, definitely.
Also.
But the machine, instantly iconic. Let's maybe pivot now from that complex emotional reality to the almost brutal genius behind Vader's look and sound, the design.
Okay. What's really fascinating here is how that iconic look, Vader's whole visual presence, was born from this collision between what George Lucas wanted aesthetically and some really intense practical needs that popped up in the early scripts.
Oh, I love this story. So Lucas gives the directive to Ralph McQuarrie, the conceptual artist. He wanted, and I quote, a very tall, dark, fluttering figure that had a spooky feeling like it came in on the wind.
Sounds almost gothic, doesn't it? Like a phantom or something.
Totally.
But McQuarrie, he immediately brings in the practicality. He suggests the black armor and helmet, specifically a full spacesuit. Why?
Because the script needed him to travel between ships.
Exactly. The earliest drafts had Vader crossing between spaceships, in the vacuum of space. So the need for survival gear became the bedrock, the foundation of that menacing armor.
Right. Necessity first. And the final appearance is this incredible mashup. Historical villainy, sci-fi, the mask itself shielding his face.
It's a fusion, isn't it? A full-face breathing mask like you'd need in space, but combined with the silhouette of a Japanese samurai helmet.
That's it. The warrior's stoicism mixed with the machine's inhumanity. It's brilliant.
And then the costume designer, John Mallow, he layered in all these other details. If you look closely, the sources say it's this wild combination of real-world stuff.
Like what?
Clerical robes for that flowing cape effect, bits of a motorcycle suit, a German military helmet structure underpins the helmet, and even a military gas mask as the face part.
Wow. So it's like fascist clerical warrior cyborg. That's quite a look.
That's how you get that distinct, terrifying presentation.
Yeah, because you've got the visual, then you need the sound. Vader's breathing, that heavy, labored breath. It's probably the most instantly recognizable sound effect in movies.
Oh, easily. It's so powerful, it's actually trademarked.
Get out. Trademark the sound.
At the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, yeah. That fact alone is just wild.
How did they even make it?
Sound designer Ben Burt. He used modified recordings of a scuba breathing apparatus, like someone breathing through a regulator.
Okay. That makes sense.
And it communicates two things at once, right? It signals the overwhelming danger of the character, but it also constantly reminds you, and Vader himself, that he's wounded. He needs that life support.
It's both a threat and a sign of pain, vulnerability almost.
Exactly, a constant reminder of his brokenness.
Okay, let's move on to the name game. This is where George Lucas's early drafts get tangled up in, unexpectedly dark. Before Anakin and Luke were Skywalkers, their original last name was Starkiller.
Starkiller, yeah. And Lucas dropped that name just a few months before they started filming the original Star Wars in '76.
Why?
The reason cited was it had unpleasant connotations. This was apparently a direct reference to Charles Manson.
Manson? How?
Well, Manson murdered actress Sharon Tate in 1969, and the media at the time often characterized him as a star killer, so Lucas wanted to avoid that association.
Wow. Okay, that context is, yeah, astonishing. Real-world horror directly influencing this huge fictional villain. So let's tackle Darth Vader. The story here isn't straightforward either, is it?
Not at all. Lucas gave a few different accounts over the years. One claimed inspiration from a Dutch phrase, dark water. We know Darth is just a title for Sith Lords, like Darth Sidious, Darth Maul.
But the interpretation that completely took over the character's legacy was the Dark Father idea, right? Everyone thinks it means Dark Father.
Absolutely. That belief just became canonical in the public mind. And Lucas himself kind of fueled that interpretation after the big reveal in The Empire Strikes Back.
But the truth is,
Well,
according to sources,
uh-huh.
when they actually chose the name Darth Vader for the first film.
The I am your father twist hadn't even been written yet, wasn't even planned.
So it was purely retroactive branding, making it fit after the fact.
Seems like it. The name is probably just supposed to sound kind of dramatic and menacing, but the story later made it feel like destiny.
It's a pretty amazing example of how creators can be influenced by how fans react to their work.
Definitely. And speaking of language, there's some great international translation quirks here, too.
Oh, these are fun?
Yeah.
We just assumed Darth Vader is universal, but nope. In France, for instance, he was called Dark Vador.
Vador. With an O.
Yeah, and apparently that variation is still used in their current media.
Huh. What about Italy?
In Italian, he was originally Darth Vader during the original trilogy era. F-E-N-E-R.
Gert Fanner.
And apparently the dubbing director for the prequels tried to switch it back to the English Darth Vader, but the traditional Darth Vader was so popular that fans resisted.
So did they keep Fanner?
Well, eventually they did switch back to Darth Vader for the sequel trilogy, so it seems the global standard won out in the end there.
Interesting. Any others?
The best one, I think, is from Iceland. Darth Vader's name there is Svartafiri.
Svarthafia, and that means
Blackhead.
blackhead. Seriously.
Yep, no ambiguity, no mythic weight, just calls it like it sees it. He has a black head.
Okay, that's pretty blunt. Hilarious, though.
All right, so let's shift from the creation of the armor and the name to the tragic making of the man inside, Anakin Skywalker. And the groundwork laid in the prequels, starting with the Phantom Menace. We meet him as a 9-year-old kid, a slave on Tatooine, with his mom, Shmi.
And he's immediately presented as incredibly gifted, right? Prodigy level, amazing pilot, great mechanic.
The sources mention he built C-3PO.
Yeah, build his own protocol droid. Though later lore kind of clarifies it was more like a complex repair job that Anakin just perfected. He found the parts and put them together.
Still impressive for a 9-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
But it's his Force sensitivity that really catches Qui-Gon Jinn's eye.
Mm-hmm. Qui-Gon becomes convinced Anakin is the legendary Chosen One, destined to bring balance to the Force.
And that conviction comes from Anakin's unusual conception. No father.
Right. Lucas was definitely aiming for that mythological resonance here, placing Anakin in that tradition of heroes with unusual origins, though he did clarify it wasn't meant as a direct parallel to, say, Jesus or anything.
But what's crucial is the Jedi Council's reaction right away.
They refused to train him initially.
Why?
Because of the fear they sense in him. That fear of loss, his attachment to his mother, his vulnerability to the dark side. That's the reason they bar him.
And that refusal becomes this tragic seed, doesn't it? The very thing they feared is maybe amplified by their rejection.
Exactly. If they hadn't been so afraid of his fear, maybe things turn out differently. Who knows?
Okay, fast forward 10 years. Attack of the Clones. Now we see the arrogant, conflicted knight emerging.
Definitely. Anakin feels Obi-Wan is holding him back, hindering his immense power, and he's breaking the Jedi code big time by starting this forbidden, really passionate romance with Padme.
And the first real moral crack appears when his mother is taken.
Yeah. Shmi gets kidnapped by Tusken Raiders.
Yeah.
Anakin finds her, but only moments before she dies in his arms. The scale of his reaction?
Yeah.
It's horrific.
He just snaps.
Completely. Grief, unimaginable rage, it just overwhelms him. And he doesn't just kill the kidnappers. He massacres the entire tribe.
The men, the women, the children.
Yes. Everything. It's the first time the source material really shows him crossing that definitive line into just indiscriminate, dark side violence. It's born from trauma, sure, but the Jedi offer him no real way to process it.
And Padme. She's disturbed when he confesses, but she still comforts him, doesn't condemn him.
Which maybe enables it further. Hard to say. But the film ends with them getting married in secret, cementing that forbidden attachment the Jedi warned about. And this is right after Anakin gets his robotic arm from the duel with Count Dooku.
So the stage is set for the final betrayal and revenge of the Sith. The narrative really hinges on his desperation to save Padme, doesn't it?
Absolutely. His nightmares about her dying in childbirth become the driving emotional force behind his turn.
And it's documented, right, that Lucas actually changed the script during reshoots in 2004.
Yeah, he specifically emphasized that desperation to save her as the primary reason. Even maybe more than his political belief that the Jedi were plotting against Palpatine. His fear of loss, of abandonment. That's the fatal flaw Palpatine exploits.
The point of no return is so dramatic. So quick. Mace Windu goes to confront Palpatine.
And Anakin makes his choice. He betrays Mace Windu, cuts off his hand, allows Sidious Palpatine to just blast him with Force lightning, kill him.
And that single act, that's it. He pledges himself to the Dark Lord, receives the title Darth Vader.
His first orders as Vader are just genocidal, slaughtering the Jedi at the temple, including the younglings.
That scene is still shocking. Truly horrific.
And then he goes straight to Mustafar to assassinate the Separatist Council, wipe the slate clean for Palpatine's new empire. He's fully the instrument now.
And that transformation culminates in that tragic duel, Obi-Wan on Mustafar, the lava planet.
The fight leaves Vader horribly mutilated, burned alive on the lava banks. Sidious scoops up what's left, takes him back to Coruscant.
For the final step, the installation of the black life support armor.
That's the moment the man, Anakin, effectively dies. And the machine, Vader, is born. But there's one final, cruel psychological twist. Palpatine's lie.
Right. Vader wakes up in suit, asks about Padme, asks if she's safe.
And Sidious lies, bald-faced lie, claims that Vader, in his rage when he force-choked her earlier, killed her.
Oh, that's brutal.
The source material notes, Vader just screams in anguish. It's not just loss, it's this instant, overwhelming guilt that Palpatine expertly heaps onto him, makes him completely dependent on his new master, trapped by his own perceived actions.
So the original trilogy kicks off, and Vader is immediately presented as this established Imperial commander, the terrifying face of the Empire. In the first film, Star Wars, 1977, he's just relentlessly pursuing those stolen Death Star plans.
Yeah, he's the enforcer. That film also gives us the lightsaber duel with Obi-Wan Kenobi as Old Master.
Maybe not as flashy as the prequel fights, but hugely important.
Absolute pivotal. Vader strikes down his mentor. Seems like he's extinguishing the last spark of the Jedi Order's hope right there.
Then he chases Luke down in the Battle of Yavin. Nearly gets him in the trench run.
Until Han Solo swoops in, sends Vader's TIE fighter spinning off into space, allows Luke to make the shot, destroy the Death Star.
But Vader survives, which leads us to the Empire Strikes Back. And this is where Vader gets really complex.
Definitely. He goes from just being a commander to this obsessed hunter, singularly focused on Luke Skywalker.
And he's the one who convinces the Emperor, right, that Luke shouldn't just be killed, he could be turned, become an ally.
Yeah, a powerful asset for the dark side. So Vader hires bounty hunters, leans on Lando Calrissian to set that trap in Cloud City.
Tortures Han Solo as bait.
He's using fear, manipulation, cruelty, anything to draw Luke out.
And then, the moment, the cinematic inflection point. After he overpowers Luke, cuts off his hand, the revelation drops.
No, I am your father. Just 4 words that completely change everything. Turns a space opera into this profound, almost Greek tragedy.
And he doesn't just say it. He follows up telepathically, telling this horrified, wounded Luke that joining the dark side is his destiny.
The whole dynamic just flips instantly. It's not just good versus evil anymore. It's about family, loyalty, heritage, destiny.
So by Return of the Jedi, Luke knows the truth, and he takes this incredibly brave, defining risk.
He surrenders to Vader, believing there's still good, still Anakin Skywalker buried somewhere inside that armor.
Which leads to the final confrontation. On the second Death Star. Palpatine watching, goading them on.
Luke, enraged when Palpatine threatens Leia, finally overpowers Vader, cuts off his hand.
A clear mirror of his own injury on Bespin and Vader's loss to Dooku.
But then Luke stops. He refuses the Emperor's command to kill his father, throws away his lightsaber.
Declares, I am a Jedi, like my father before him. That refusal That's the catalyst, isn't it?
That's the moment of redemption. When Palpatine starts torturing Luke with Force lightning, Vader finally makes his choice. He turns on his master.
Picks Palpatine up.
And throws him down the reactor shaft, to his own mutual destruction, really, fulfilling the prophecy in the end.
And that final scene, oh man, so emotional. At Vader's request, Luke takes off the mask.
Luke looks on the face of the redeemed Anakin Skywalker for the first and last time.
Anakin tells Luke he saved him. Then he dies peacefully.
Luke honors him, burns Vader's body on a traditional Jedi funeral pyre on Endor. And the sources confirm Anakin's spirit appears later, alongside Obi-Wan and Yoda, showing his return to the light.
And this legacy, it just echoes powerfully into the sequel trilogy, too.
Absolutely. In The Force Awakens, Vader's burn helmet is basically this dark religious relic. Kylo Ren Ben Solo, his grandson, talks to it, vows to finish what Vader started, destroy the Jedi.
And even in The Rise of Skywalker, Anakin's voice is there. Among the past Jedi encouraging Rey in her final fight, telling her to bring balance back to the Force.
Yeah.
His sacrifice resonates across generations.
Okay, bringing Vader to life in the original trilogy, it wasn't just one person. It took this really complex, sometimes kind of tense collaboration between 4 different men to create the full presence.
Right. First, you have the physical body. David Prowse, huge guy, 6'6" bodybuilder. He was inside the suit for all 3 original films.
And apparently he was offered Chewbacca first, but he chose Vader. Thought the villain was always more memorable.
Probably a good call for him, legacy-wise.
But for the really intense lightsaber fights, Lucas hired someone else, a former Olympic fencer, Bob Anderson.
Olympic fencer, okay.
Yeah, he handled the choreography and actually doubled Prowse for the action sequences in Empire and Jedi. So Prowse was the presence, Anderson was the duelist.
Then came the voice. That was the big issue, right? Prowse was British, but his accent.
Yeah, he had a West Country English accent. Think Bristol or Somerset. George Lucas felt it was just completely wrong for this imposing cosmic Sith Lord.
So who did they consider?
Lucas initially thought about Orson Welles, apparently, but ultimately chose James Earl Jones.
And the rest is history. That voice is Vader.
It is, but here's the wild part. Jones initially chose to be uncredited for the first 2 films.
Uncredited? Why?
He felt his role was too small, just a voiceover for a character someone else played physically. He didn't think it warranted screen credit. It wasn't until Return of the Jedi that he finally accepted it.
Wow. So the voice that defines the character was basically a secret contributor for years.
Pretty much. Now, let's talk about the other big secret. The mother of all movie twists. The I am your father reveal in Empire. The security around this was intense.
Like spy thriller level.
Absolutely. David Prowse. Well, he had a reputation for being a bit loose-lipped, prone to leaking info to the press.
Uh-oh. Not good when you have the biggest twist in cinema history on your hands.
Exactly. So the filmmakers couldn't risk it getting out. What did they do? They gave Prowse completely fake dialogue to read during filming.
Fake dialogue. For that scene.
For the critical confrontation on Bespin, on set, Prowse actually delivered the line, "Obi-Wan killed your father."
No way.
Way. Only a handful of people knew the real line. The director, Irvin Kershner, the producers, and Mark Hamill. And Hamill only found out moments before they shot the scene.
Oh my God. Imagine finding that out right before you have to react to it.
Intense. Jones dubbed in the actual line later in post-production. Prowse himself didn't know the truth until he saw the finished movie in the theater.
That is absolutely insane. Performing the climax of the film with no idea of the real stakes.
And the secrecy continued for the unmasking scene in Return of the Jedi. They needed a different actor for the face reveal, right? The dying Anakin. Someone with more gravitas, perhaps, whose face wasn't known as Vader.
So they cast Sebastian Shaw.
Correct. And Shaw's presence on set was kept almost totally under wraps. He had strict contractual obligations, do not discuss anything about the film, especially the unmasking, not even with his own family.
All to preserve that emotional punch for the audience.
Exactly. We should probably note, though, while Shaw played the unmasked Anakin originally, his face in the Force ghost scene at the very end was later replaced.
Right, by Hayden Christensen in the 2004 DVD special edition, to create continuity with the prequels. A controversial change for some fans.
Very controversial. Speaking of Christensen, he really is the definitive Anakin for the modern era, isn't he?
Yeah, he came back not just for Revenge of the Sith, but reprised the role much later in the Disney Plus series, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ahsoka.
And even won a Saturn Award for Ahsoka, which is pretty cool.
The Ahsoka series used flashbacks to the Clone Wars, right? How do they manage that with Christensen being older?
That's where modern film tech comes in. Industrial light and magic used sophisticated de-aging technology, made the 42-year-old Christensen look just like he did back in the prequel era. Pretty seamless, actually.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. Future of IP level interesting. The voice. James Earl Jones retired from voicing Vader in September 2022.
A monumental retirement, the end of an era.
But not the end of the voice.
Yeah.
What happened next is, well, revolutionary.
His voice is now digitally recreated by a company called Respeecher, based in Ukraine.
So it's AI, an AI James Earl Jones.
Essentially, yes. And Jones didn't just retire, he signed over the rights to his vocal likeness for use in future Star Wars productions.
Wait, he signed over the rights to his voice? Completely. That's huge. That's not just a special effect. It's a massive legal and technological precedent.
It really is. For modern intellectual property, for generative AI, the icon literally lives on through an AI copy of his human voice.
Has this tech been used already?
Oh, yeah. It was first deployed in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. That's how Vader's voice sounded consistent, even though Jones had retired. And it's been used since then in other media, like there was a Darth Vader NPC in the game Fortnite that used it.
Wow. So the legacy is now literally being preserved by artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
That's something else.
Right.
We really can't get the full picture of Anakin's life, especially his path to the dark side, without talking about his relationship with his apprentice, Ahsoka Tano, introduced in the Clone Wars animated series.
Right. Yoda assigned Ahsoka to Anakin, and Anakin was reluctant at first, didn't want a Padawan.
But they clicked, did they?
Immediately, it became very familial. Anakin nicknamed her Snips because she was sassy. She called him Sky Guy. They really bonded over being reckless and eager. And having her around arguably helped Anakin mature a bit from just being impulsive to having responsibility for someone else.
But that affection,
Yeah.
he was also part of his downfall, wasn't it? His attachment.
Definitely. His fierce, almost fatherly protectiveness of Ahsoka often made him bend or break the Jedi Code. Like he was willing to torture prisoners to find her if she went missing. That attachment was always his weakness.
And the animated series really leaned into foreshadowing his fate.
Masterfully done. It included visions of his future as Vader. But the biggest push towards the dark side in that storyline was how the Jedi Council treated Ahsoka.
And he was wrongly accused of bombing the Jedi Temple.
Exactly. Their unjust handling of that whole situation created this deep disillusionment in Anakin. It proved to him that the Council was flawed, hypocritical, pushed him further away.
And their dynamic continues even after his fall, right? Tragically.
Yeah, in the later Rebels animated series, which is set about 14 years after Revenge of the Sith, Vader confronts Ahsoka. She's a leader in the rebellion by then.
That must have been devastating for her.
It was. She's overwhelmed when she finally realizes her old master is trapped under that layer of hate, as she puts it. She recognizes his voice, fights him, tries to reach the man inside. It's heartbreaking.
And this complex relationship got revisited again recently in the live-action Ahsoka series from 2023.
Right. Anakin appears to her, kind of in spirit form, within this mystical place called the World Between Worlds. He guides her through visions of their past, his dark choices, trying to teach her one last lesson about life and death, legacy.
Okay, shifting back to live action, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series on Disney Plus set a decade after Mustafar. The core there is Obi-Wan's trauma, right?
Yeah, Obi-Wan believed Vader was dead. A horrible tragedy, but one he'd sort of come to terms with. It takes the Imperial Inquisitor, Reva Savander, revealing the truth Anakin Skywalker is alive, for Obi-Wan to have to confront that horror all over again.
And this series gives us another duel between them, a second round.
A really dramatic one. Vader is just ruthlessly powerful at this point. He initially overpowers Obi-Wan quite easily, toys with him.
But Obi-Wan rallies.
In their final confrontation, yeah. Obi-Wan recovers his connection to the Force, his strength. He actually wounds Vader multiple times and even slashes open the helmet, partially reveals Anakin's scarred face underneath, before leaving him there, defeated and wheezing, unable to deliver a killing blow again.
We also get a glimpse of Vader's, his daily life as a Sith Lord in Rogue One, his base of operations.
Yeah, he summons Orson Krennic, the weapons developer, to his fortress. And where is this fortress built? Directly over the lava banks of Mustafar, where he was defeated.
Talk about dwelling on the past. Yeah. Super gothic.
Right. He confronts Krennic there about the Death Star project. And, of course, Rogue One gives us that incredible, terrifying action sequence at the very end.
Oh, yeah. The hallway scene.
Vader boards the rebel ship, ignites the lightsaber, and just carves through those rebel soldiers trying to get the plans away. It's brutal. It totally cemented his status as this unstoppable force right before the original 1977 film begins.
Okay, lastly in this section, we had to touch on the comics. The Marvel comics have added a lot of lore, some of it kind of contentious, right?
Definitely. The 2015 series picks up right after the first Death Star is destroyed, shows Vader finding out about Luke. The 2020 continuation has him seeking revenge, visiting Padmé's tomb on Naboo, encountering her handmaidens. Lots of gap filling.
But the most controversial bit came from the prequel era series, Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith, the one about Anakin's conception.
Ah, yes. That comic strongly implies.
Yeah.
Well, it shows a vision where it looks like Palpatine is using the Force to manipulate the midichlorians in Shmi Skywalker's womb, basically implying Palpatine created Anakin.
Fulfilling that old fan theory based on Palpatine's Opera House story in Revenge of the Sith. So the comic basically said Palpatine was Anakin's father.
It visually suggested it very strongly, which naturally created a huge debate among fans. Did this contradict the whole Chosen One prophecy, the Immaculate Conception idea?
So Lucasfilm had to step in.
Pretty quickly, yeah. A Lucasfilm story group member clarified things, stating that this whole revelation, this vision, it was all in Anakin's head.
All in his head. Meaning not objectively true.
Exactly, and this is where they introduced a really important concept for understanding modern Star Wars canon. The dark side is not a reliable narrator.
Okay, unpack that. What does that mean for us, the audience?
It means that within the official canon, things a character sees, experiences, or is told while under the influence of the dark side visions, whispers, claims made by Sith Lords, they might not reflect objective reality. Palpatine might have wanted Anakin to believe he created him, maybe to further manipulate his guilt and loyalty. But the official stance is that vision wasn't literal truth. It was a dark side illusion or interpretation in Anakin's mind.
So Palpatine probably didn't create Anakin. The dark side just made Anakin think he did or fear he did.
Yeah.
It's a pretty sophisticated, almost meta layer to add to the lore. Makes you question everything you see through a darksider's eyes.
Precisely. It adds ambiguity, but it also protects the core mythology in a way.
All right, let's shift gears now to the real world. Vader isn't just a character in a story. He's become this massive cultural phenomenon, subject to serious analysis even.
Oh, absolutely. For instance, French psychiatrist Eric Bouy and his colleagues actually published work using Vader as a case study.
A medical case study. For what?
For explaining the complexities of borderline personality disorder, BPD, to medical students, they found him a really useful example.
That's fascinating. What specific traits in Anakin's character did they point to that align with BPD criteria?
They cited quite a few. His overwhelming fear of abandonment, especially regarding his mother Shmi and later Padme, that's central.
Okay.
His extreme impulsivity and difficulty controlling his anger. Think the Tusken Raider massacre, his attack on Padme betraying Mace Windu.
Right. Fits of rage with huge consequences.
And also that rapid switching between idealizing people like Obi-Wan or Padme and then suddenly seeing them as enemies, traitors, that black and white thinking, the derealization, plus potential dissociative episodes.
But diagnosing a fictional character, you have to be careful, right?
Absolutely. And there was a counterpoint from a Brazilian neurologist, Felipe Filardi de Rocha. He argued that you really have to consider Anakin's environment and culture before slapping a formal diagnosis on him. Meaning he was a slave, taken from his mother, raised in a Jedi order that actively suppressed emotion and attachment, then intensely manipulated by a master psychopath, Palpatine. His actions could be seen as complex trauma responses amplified by the dark side, not necessarily solely down to an inherent personality disorder. Context matters hugely.
That's a really important distinction, trauma versus disorder. But regardless of the psychological label, his status as an icon is undeniable. The American Film Institute ranked him, what, third greatest movie villain ever?
Third greatest, right behind Hannibal Lecter and Norman Bates. That's incredibly elite company, crossing genres.
Wow. And his influence pops up in the weirdest places.
Oh, yeah.
Like biology, naming animals after him.
Yep. Several real-world species have been named after Vader, usually because something about their appearance, often the head shape, reminded the scientists of his helmet.
Like, give me an example.
There's a slime mold beetle called Agathidium vaderi, a species of louse, Ricinus vaderi.
Rachel louse, okay.
But maybe the best recent one is a giant sea isopod, Bathynomus vaderi. It's this big, deep-sea crustacean, and the researchers explicitly said its head shape just screamed Darth Vader's helmet to them.
That's amazing. When a deep-sea isopod gets named after you, you know you've made it culturally.
That's true saturation. And of course, Vader is just irresistible for political commentary and parody. Everyone knows Spaceballs, dark helmet.
I see your shorts is as big as mine. Classic.
But he's been used seriously, usually as a negative comparison in politics, for decades.
The sources mention Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, a German news magazine put Vader's helmet on Reagan's image in response to his Strategic Defense Initiative, which critics called Star Wars. Al Gore famously called the cable mogul John C. Malone the Darth Vader of cable.
And Lee Atwater, the political strategist.
Known by opponents as the Darth Vader of the Republican Party. It became shorthand for a kind of ruthless political operator.
But maybe the most insightful comment came from George Lucas himself, when people started comparing Vice President Dick Cheney to Vader.
Right, Lucas actually weighed in. He clarified his view, saying Cheney was actually much closer in character to Emperor Palpatine, the manipulative master behind the scenes.
So who did Lucas think was a better fit for Vader?
He suggested President George W. Bush might be a better stand-in for Vader, the more tragic figure, perhaps manipulated or led down a certain path. Interesting take from the creator.
And the political stuff gets even wilder in Ukraine.
Oh, yeah. Due to decommunization laws there, a statue of Vladimir Lenin in the city of Odessa was actually legally converted into a statue of Darth Vader, complete with helmet.
You kidding? Lenin becomes Vader.
It happened. What's more, this political group called the Internet Party of Ukraine has repeatedly had citizens legally change their name to Darth Vader to run in elections.
Multiple Darth Vaders running for office.
Yep. He's become this weird, active symbol in their modern political landscape. Surreal.
Okay, one last bizarre connection. Real-world military gear.
This one's strange. The Iraqi paramilitary group, the Fedayeen Saddam, were apparently issued fiberglass helmets starting in 1995 that were styled exactly like Vader's helmet.
Why on earth?
The story goes it was at the specific request of their commander, Uday Hussein, Saddam Hussein's son, who was reportedly a huge Star Wars fan.
Uday Hussein liked Star Wars, so his troops got Vader helmets.
Apparently so. Pieces of this gear were later found and brought back by coalition forces after the 2003 invasion. A very weird intersection of pop culture and real-world conflict.
Wow, what an incredible journey we've just taken. From, the practical need for a spacesuit and that scuba breathing sound, to the uncredited voice of James Earl Jones shaping the character, to these deep psychological analyses suggesting profound trauma or maybe BPD. This character is just so layered, complicated, eternally tragic.
And we've seen the extraordinary lengths taken to create him and then protect his secrets. The fake dialogue for David Prowse, the contracts demanding silence from Sebastian Shaw.
And now preserving his voice through revolutionary AI, it's mind-boggling.
It really is.
And we learned that even core parts of his story, things we thought we knew, like where his name came from or the source of his birth, they're subject to change. Retroactive branding, maybe?
Exactly. The name Darth Vader only really became Dark Father after the reveal made it fit perfectly.
And that comic implication, that Palpatine engineered his birth, later clarified as just a dark side lie.
Yeah.
A manipulation.
With that crucial takeaway, the dark side is not a reliable narrator. And that idea, that fallibility of knowledge within the universe itself, it raises a huge question, doesn't it? Something maybe for you, the listener, to think about.
Okay, what's the final provocative thought?
Well, if the name that seemed to signal his destiny, Dark Father, was just invented retroactively, and if the ultimate claim about his origin, Palpatine creating him, was later declared a manipulative lie from an unreliable source, then what does all this constant revision, this unreliable narration, tell us about destiny versus free will in his story? If Palpatine wasn't his father in that sense, and the dark side lies, was Anakin truly destined to fall? Or did he simply make the choice, maybe free from specific cosmic interference, based entirely on his own fears, his own attachments, his own decisions?
Was it fate, or was it choice amplified by circumstance and manipulation? That's a great question to ponder.
Thank you for joining us on this really extensive deep dive into the anatomy of Anakin Skywalker, the Dark Lord of the Sith, and just the sheer complexity of his cultural footprint.
We'll see you next time.